I begin? I suppose I'll just start off by simply saying that Gears of War is one of the best games you'll ever play on the Xbox 360. Released 1 year after the launch of the 360, Gears received a fair amount of typical hype from reviewers in the industry, mostly because of its gorgeous visuals and intense graphical capability. Normally hype is just that and nothing more, but with Gears of War, for once, the hyped-up anticipation paid off. Not only does Gears of War live up to the hype, but it's managed to set the bar for other games in terms of both graphics and innovative gameplay. In addition to all of this, Gears of War is the first Xbox 360 game to establish itself as a must-have title and the console's premier killer app. Epic has done a stellar job developing a highly original game that sets itself apart from the pack in nearly every way possible. The plot in Gears of War is centered around a fairly unique narrative. It's set on a planet called Sera, a once peaceful world. But after an energy crisis sparked a world war between all the nations on the planet, most of Sera's civilization was reduced to rubble in the resulting conflict. Just when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, a race of literally evil subterranean aliens dug their way out of the ground in a massive assault later called Emergence Day. These aliens, called the Locust Horde, scattered all the human forces to the wind with their unorthodox and indefensible attacks. The game kicks off as Marcus Phoenix, a veteran of the initial Locust conflict, is busted out of prison by his childhood pal and former squad mate Dominic Santiago. I really have to note that most of that was just backstory, and at no point in the game is it clearly stated exactly how any of the events came to be, or why Phoenix was in prison in the first place. So the game is light on story, but the story is still good. It's unique that the aliens came from underground rather than outer space, and the narrative remains interesting from start to finish, even if it does rely heavily on backstory. So let's talk gameplay. Gears of War is a third-person shooter, and unlike most shooting games, you're not running and jumping like a jackrabbit in arcade-style gunfights. The action that takes place on the planet Sera, in spite of its over-the-top gore and sensationalized theme, actually has more in common with real-world combat than most shooters that are out there right now. The core gameplay of Gears is seen in the fast cover system. Basically, you tap the A button, and you'll slide into the nearest piece of cover, a wrecked car, a tree, park bench, a couch, whatever happens to be near you at the time, you'll immediately hide behind at the tap of a button. This works fairly well, and the only time I noticed that the learning curve actually presented a bit of a problem was in multiplayer. For the most part it works well though, and the firefights can become quite intense since you're sort of slowly working your way up a hallway or a street, ducking and shooting with the Locust AI trying their damnedest to outflank you and achieve fire superiority. The firefights in the campaign are sweet because on the harder difficulties, you really feel like you're up against a challenging and intelligent enemy. As per the aforementioned flanking locusts, you'll need to move from cover to cover constantly because if you stay in one spot too long, you're either going to get outflanked or nailed by one of the Grenadier Grub's Johnny-on-the-spot grenade tosses. It's extremely fun and a different sort of experience from what you get with other shooters, so the gameplay is unique in that sense because it's really more about utilizing cover and your position and field of fire as well as mobility, which, none of those really factor into any other shooter, well, at least not all at once. At the very least, it's the most effective and finely tuned cover system I've ever seen. The enemy locusts are varied enough to present a wide array of challenges and battles, and occasionally the game throws a mini-boss type locust at you that's harder to take down and does a hell of a lot more damage than the more common grub locust. Environments in Gears are also awesome. They range from bombed out skyscrapers and temples to underground caves to horrific and eerie deserted villages. Wherever you are on the planet Sera, you can be sure it's going to look freaking amazing. This is where the graphics of Gears really start to show off some muscle because everything in the environments is just tuned to perfection. And there aren't really enough words for me to say about it. It's just suffice to say that it's the best looking game on the Xbox 360.